Hello and welcome to this episode of the Print on Demand Playbook podcast. I'm your host, Adrian Von Arx, here with my co-host, Kerry, and today's episode is long overdue. This is the Shopify versus Etsy showdown. We are going to be discussing the pros and the cons of each platform so that you can make a more informed decision, and be sure to listen until the end where we'll be sharing the strategy that we use and recommend. But before that, real quick, if you haven't already, please be sure to subscribe to the podcast. We really appreciate it. It helps us reach new listeners and it helps you never miss an episode. So thank you so much for being here. We're happy you're here. And just before we hop in, here's a quick word from this episode's sponsor.
This podcast is brought to you by Gelato, the world's largest print-on-demand network. Gelato enables individuals ranging from e-commerce entrepreneurs to artists and creatives to establish their own global business. The magic of Gelato is that they focus on local production. The item being delivered is produced in the country that the order is placed almost 90% of the time, leading to many benefits such as lower costs, faster delivery times, and most importantly, reducing carbon emissions. The focus on tech to knit together over 130 production facilities across 32 countries is truly unique. Thanks to this, they currently have the highest customer satisfaction score in the print-on-demand industry on Trustpilot. To check them out for yourself, go to sixfigureFounder.com/gelato and use the discount code PODPlaybook, all capital letters, to get 60% off your first order when placed within 72 hours. That's the number 6figureFounder.com/GELATO. You can also find the link and discount code in the podcast show notes or in the video description on YouTube.
What is up, everyone? Welcome to this episode. Man, we have needed to do this episode for a long time. We have been teasing this episode for a long time, and we're finally here.
Who do you think is going to win, Shopify or Etsy? As if it's a mystery.
Well, I might actually know. Yeah. We are doing the Shopify versus Etsy showdown. And you know what? We have a lot of listeners that are both Shopify and Etsy users. Some are just Shopify, some are just Etsy, some are both. So we will try to be fair here, but in full transparency, while we both like both platforms, we definitely favor Shopify since this is where we have made essentially all of our e-commerce sales.
Yeah.
Like, I love Etsy as a complementary sales channel. I love it. And I love having it alongside my Shopify store, but it doesn't make me nearly as many sales. It's like a small fraction of the sales. It's just not as scalable in my opinion. And I would personally never create a standalone Etsy shop unless I was not at all reliant on that income. And we're going to get into that. We're going to explain why that can be quite risky. But just before we get in, Kerry, how are you, man?
Dude, I'm good. I just got back from Boise, Idaho.
Yeah.
Went out there with a good friend of mine and went to a conference for a couple days, mostly talking about content creation, YouTube, stuff like that. And it was really good, man. I love Boise. Been out there a couple times. I'm always feeling a little bit behind this week, but always excited to get back in the swing of things. So once you get a little break like that. So I'm pumped about this episode, dude. I'm happy to be back recording podcast episodes. So I love it.
Cool. Yeah. Boise is a beautiful city. I've been there quite a few times myself. Home of Russell Brunson and ClickFunnels.
True.
Yeah, just a beautiful city, just a really beautiful place. But anyhow, we're going to get into a email. And we actually teased this in, I believe it was the last episode. We mentioned that someone had sent us an email talking about the podcast and how it had helped them. And we didn't want to read the email without their permission. So I reached out to this seller and I asked him, because it was such a good email and I think this could be so inspiring to people. I reached out to him and I asked him if he wouldn't mind, and he was super awesome. Like, this guy is so cool. He was totally fine with it. He said, yep, no problem. Use whatever you want. So I wanted to shout him out. Just before that, I also wanted to mention that last week we did a hot topic call on effective marketing strategies right now. And I led this for our six-figure founder community, and it was so much fun. It was just such good vibes all around. A bunch of us are now doing a 30-day content challenge. So everyone listening right now, you can hold me personally accountable because I am partaking in the challenge for my Ecom Legends Academy Instagram account. So my primary acquisition channel, where I get, where I promote mostly to my community, is actually on TikTok for coaching. But I'm going on Instagram for 30 days straight. So starting today, the month of August, already posted for today, but for the month of August, I'm going to be posting every day. And you know what? If you're a listener of this podcast, even if you're not a part of the six-figure founder community, I want to challenge you to do your own 30-day content challenge, whether it be TikTok, whether it be Instagram, whatever your primary channel for attracting new prospective customers and, building a following of raving fans, whatever community it is that you want to go all in on, or are you currently all in on, I challenge you to post at least once a day for 30 days straight. And then look at the analytics afterwards. After the 30 days, look at your dashboard, see what performed the best, and then optimize your next 30 days of content based on what performed the best over the last 30 days. So that's all I'm going to say about that.
Well, let me jump in. That's so good.
Yeah, go ahead.
That's so good because one of the things, like, I know you preach this as well, but I've had Shirt School, which is my program, for 4 years in September, coming up on our 4-year anniversary, which is crazy. But that's been, like, especially over the last couple of years, something I've just tried to drive home as much as possible is that consistency is key. Consistency is key because online world, we all want the instant gratification, and it's so easy to just think if I go post 2 or 3 times on Instagram or Facebook, like, I'll just be making all these sales. And the key is consistency. And, like, if you commit and you say, I'm going to do this every single day for 30 days, you'll be shocked at the results that you'll have after 30 days. If you just think about anything, if you ate healthy for 30 days, how much weight would you lose? If you worked out for 30, if you worked out every day for 30 days, like, how much better would you feel, look, stronger would you be? All the things, like, anything you do for 30 days, like, you're going to see results. And so I would extend that challenge that you mentioned. Like, you guys go do it. Just make a challenge and then let us know, like, shoot us an email or hit us up on social and say, hey, here's what happened after 30 days. We love to know.
Yeah, I love that idea. Yeah, absolutely. There's a really good quote that I heard recently, and I think I added this in the caption of my post today, actually. I just tweaked it a little bit, but the post says, you have, in 6 months from now, you're either going to have 6 months of excuses or 6 months of progress. And I just love that quote. And I tweaked it and I said 5 months because we are 5 months from 2024. There are 5 more months left of this year. And it is not too late for people to start, grow, and scale their business and capitalize big time on Q4, which is the biggest shopping season of the year and where a lot of people make a lot of their sales. So I was trying to inspire people in this post to, like, take action and focus on progress, as opposed to not doing anything at all. And then 5 months down, when 2024 comes, all it is excuses. Yeah. So, guys, take part in this 30-day challenge. You're all invited. Message us, tell us how it goes. Let's go. All right. With that, let's read this email. So this email is from Chad N. So Chad, if you're listening, dude, you are so awesome. I had a couple email exchanges back and forth with him. Really cool dude.
What a stud.
I'm not going to mention his brand. I'm just going to intentionally leave that out. But I want to read the email from him because he sent us this email on July 15th out of the blue. And dude, this made my day. Like, this email made me so happy. So he says, hey team, I just found your podcast, episode 4 regarding print on demand. I have grown my clothing brand from $0 to $100,000 per month.
What?
And have been doing heat press and transfers. And I can't keep up. The customers are getting annoyed and my mental health is declining. Yeah, totally get that. Totally get that. And we kind of talked about that in the last episode on the Q&A. Like, it's really hard when you are fulfilling your own orders because you become the biggest bottleneck. And as soon as you see success, it becomes extremely overwhelming and not that scalable. You're held back by your own limitations. So totally get that. But back to his email. I have now decided to take the leap into print on demand through Gelato, and I'm in the middle of creating the products on Shopify. I've decided to take the leap into print on demand through Gelato and Printful. I'm in the middle of creating the products on Shopify. Anyway, I just really need this episode today and can see the light. The profits are actually better than doing it myself. Thanks a lot, Chad N.
Let's go.
Dude.
Come on.
Like that kind of email, just like ear to ear smile. We were so happy for you, Chad. We're so happy that you found us. We're so happy that you found print on demand. And we're so happy that you're able to outsource the fulfillment, and hopefully your customers will not be so annoyed. They shouldn't. And your mental health will stop declining, because I don't want to go on a tangent about this, but I think, mental health it's a real thing in the entrepreneurship world. Like 100%. So many entrepreneurs get burnt out, and I got burnt out. We've all been there. I was essentially out of commission for almost half a year from burnout a couple of years back. And it was awful. Like, it was so stressful. It was so terrible. And that's a story for another day. But like, this is a real thing, and it's just not talked about enough. So anything that we as entrepreneurs can do to ourselves to take some of the burden off, that will hopefully reduce the chances of, dealing with constant stress and anxiety. So thank you, Chad, for your email. You're awesome, man. Keep up the great work. And we're excited to hear about the results. Like, we were talking to someone from Gelato the other day, and he was saying that Chad's already crushing it over there. So good for you, man. Super excited for you. And congratulations on taking action and making the transition. With that,
dude,
Kerry, did you want to say anything else before we get into the main event?
Thank you, Chad. You're a stud. We love you. We love hearing your stories. Email us, message us. We love hearing it. No, I was going to say, let's dive into Shopify versus Etsy. And let's just commit right now.
Let's go.
And we're going to do this in the next 45 minutes. We're going to do it.
Oh, dude, you're asking.
Another challenge.
Wait. Like 45 minutes from now?
From now, 45 minutes. Let's do this.
All right. We're going to have to talk maybe a little bit faster. All right, let's go. Here we go. Pros and cons. So the way we're going to break this down is we're going to talk about Etsy first. We're going to talk about the pros and the cons of Etsy. And then we're going to talk about Shopify next and talk about the pros and cons there. And to be totally transparent, again, I mentioned before that we favor Shopify. I'm just going to put that out there up front because this is where we've made most of our e-commerce sales. However, we know a lot more about, I know a lot more about Shopify than I do about Etsy, even though I use Etsy. I would consider myself a Shopify expert, but not so much an Etsy expert. So we're going to do our best here with the knowledge and our research and what we know. So let's just start with the pros of Etsy. Kerry, do you want to kick it off with the pros, or do you want me to kick it off?
It doesn't matter. I was going to say a couple things. I'm going to do my best to be not biased towards Shopify, even though I love Shopify. I want to see what happens. And I want to decide at the end of this episode, which is really the better platform,
Very good. I'll do my best as well.
I wanted to add something here. I don't know if this is the right place to add it, but one of the things that I think is so interesting about Etsy, and just to kind of put it in perspective, one of the reasons I think we love Shopify is because the top Etsy sellers don't actually make that much money. This is what's crazy is I've seen some crazy stats. I was actually trying to get them pulled up, but the average like seller would make about about 43,000 to 46,000 per year on Etsy. That's like, if you're doing pretty good. The top earners, somewhere around like 60,000 a month, like the top earners. But you're talking about that's like the top, 1%. On Shopify, you're talking about brands like Kylie Cosmetics and like billion-dollar brands, like we're talking like thousands of them. It's not like there's just a few. Like Shopify has some of the biggest brands in the world. And that's a big differentiator because most people on Etsy, if we kind of do the math, let's just say they're doing 50,000 per year, most people on Etsy are doing maybe $1,000 to $5,000 a month, somewhere in there, where it's like with Shopify, the potential is so much higher, and it's for the reasons we're going to talk about a lot on here. So I'll kick it off a little bit.
Sure.
with some pros of Etsy. We're gonna jump into pros. I'm jumping to the cons, I guess. But pros of Etsy. So why would you want to use Etsy in general? What would be some of the things? So number one, Etsy drives traffic to their platform for you. So that's a big thing. Etsy's kind of like a marketplace where you can list your products, and Etsy will bring traffic to you. Etsy is a search engine. It's like Google in that way, where somebody's going to come there, they're going to search for a product, it's going to pull up a bunch of products, and Etsy will hopefully list your product up there for people to see, and maybe they'll click on it and buy it.
Right.
It's relatively quick and easy to set up. I would definitely agree with that if you were looking at Shopify versus Etsy, which one is easier to get started with? 100%, I think Etsy is.
100%.
It's so easy to get set up. Even if you're doing print on demand, it's pretty easy to get print on demand products set up with Etsy.
You can connect them directly. Like there's Gelato Etsy integration. So there's most print on demand companies, all the big ones seem to have direct integration with Etsy. So
Gelato, Printify, Printful, I know Awkward Styles does. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
so
all the big ones.
Pretty easy to get set up. No website is required. So logo, banner, profile, and product details. You do need those things. Setting up an Etsy shop, you'll need a few things like your logo and banner and different things. But you don't have to like have a domain. You don't have to have this elaborate website. It's, you can set up just a basic Etsy shop. It doesn't take too long to do. Right. It's easy to use, simple. It's easy to add new products, easy to launch. And it's also a trusted platform. I heard a crazy stat a few years back. I think Etsy's like at the time was like the third or fourth largest e-commerce store in the world or something like that. Like it's pretty crazy. Just because so many people go to Etsy to shop. So it's a very trusted platform. I think it's also another kind of stat. It's like 93% female. That's something to know if you're considering selling on Etsy. It's like 93% of the customers or the shoppers are female. So that's something interesting. It's going to definitely lean heavier toward female-focused brands or female-focused designs. So, so those would be some of the pros. I think the biggest thing to know overall as the pro of Etsy, two pros, is that it's easy and quick to set up, and they're going to drive a lot of traffic for you, or in theory, they will drive a lot of traffic for you. That's not always the case. A lot of people don't. Yeah,
they're driving traffic to Etsy, not necessarily to your store. Like you still have to be discovered in Etsy.
Yeah.
But
which means
that's huge.
You're going to need products and designs that really, really stand out. And you're going to need to know, how to rank in SEO. Yeah. And then you're also just going to have to like trust that Etsy is going to put eyeballs in front of your products, because it's up to them ultimately. So.
Yeah, Etsy SEO is really big. That's how a lot of people are driving sales or driving traffic to their listings in Etsy. So you would need to learn that. It really doesn't seem too challenging to learn because you're pretty limited in what you can do in the platform. But a couple things that I just wanted to add here, a couple things that I really like about Etsy. So first of all, I love that Etsy drives traffic to the platform. That's amazing. This is huge because Shopify does not. Like you have to drive your own traffic through Shopify. And there are countless ways that you can do that. But with Etsy, the traffic is being driven there. And that leads me to another point that I want to make is people go to Etsy to shop. They are going there to shop. It's like going to the mall, and they're going to the mall to buy. Whereas a lot of the advertising that we do for our Shopify stores is more of a disruptive marketing tactic, which can totally work. If you have good products and you're getting them in front of the right people, it can be extremely effective. But a lot of the marketing that we do is social media marketing, and people aren't necessarily going on social media to shop. They're going there to see what their friends are up to, what influencers they follow are up to, maybe brands they follow are up to, and then we are interrupting them during their scroll and showing them awesome products that hopefully align with them. And we want them, our goal is to either get them to complete their purchase in the app, like in Instagram shops or Facebook shops or TikTok shops, or go to our website and see what else we have and complete their purchase there. So the intent is a bit different. There's like that shopper intent going in. And I just want to kind of double down on this trusted platform thing, because that is big. That is big. There is a lot of trust in the Etsy name. Most people will not hesitate to make a purchase on Etsy. But if they're seeing our website for the very first time and they've never seen it before, then there could be some trust issues. And we definitely teach a lot of strategies that are trust building strategies like social proof and trust badges and user generated content and reviews. There's a lot of things that we teach to make your website appear more trustworthy. But I would say that if someone goes on Etsy and sees something, they're more likely to purchase on a trust standpoint than if they go to a website for the first time. And a lot of times they do purchase from our websites. They eventually purchase or they purchase right away. But what I'm saying is that Etsy, there's trust associated with the name, kind of like Amazon, and they are very customer centric. So buyers know that if they have a problem with Etsy, they can go to Etsy and it'll very likely get resolved. There's a high likelihood it'll get resolved in their favor. And there's power in that. So
if you were curious, Etsy for June of 2023 was the fifth highest ranking e-commerce store or website in the world. Yeah. So above that, Amazon's number one. Somehow eBay is still number two. Isn't that crazy?
Dude, eBay's making a comeback, dude. They're on the up and up. I'm telling you right now, eBay is on the up and up. And I think that in the future, a lot of print on demand sellers are going to be on eBay. And I don't know what it is, but they seem to be like revamping something, because I'm hearing about eBay more and more as a sales channel. So
the average visit,
you think eBay, you think like, what are we in the 90s? Like
average visit on eBay is about 7 minutes. Like people are staying on the website for 7 minutes, which is really long. And then number 3 is actually Amazon.co.jp. I'm assuming that's a different.
I think that's Japan, isn't it?
Maybe so. So Amazon's got 2 of the top 3, and then Rakuten, surprisingly, number 4, Rakuten.
Yeah,
which I think is also the Japan version. It's .jp, and then Etsy's number 5.
Rakuten's based out of Japan.
Etsy's number 5. Dude, Walmart's all the way down at number 8.
Ooh.
Average time on the website, only 4 minutes and 39 seconds.
Etsy's got Walmart beat. Okay, that is like, wild. I knew Etsy was big, but that's wild. If I had to guess, I would think Walmart.com would be like higher up. And maybe, you know what, like they got kind of a late start. Amazon dominated them for a long time. And I know Walmart is making a big push, and now they're integrating with a bunch of print on demand companies. Like I know that there's direct integration is starting to happen with different print on demand companies. So I think they're going to get bigger, and maybe they've even moved up the ranks, but that's actually pretty surprising.
So that is worldwide. If you look at US, I filtered it to just US. It's Amazon number 1, eBay number 2, then Walmart number 3.
Okay, that makes more sense.
Etsy number 4. You want to know the surprise at number 5? Another weird one. You ready for this?
What is
Craigslist, number 5.
No.
Yeah, dude. I thought Craigslist was dead. I was like, Facebook Marketplace destroyed. No, it's still the 5th largest, I guess, e-commerce and shopping website in the US. That's insane. I haven't used it in years. I only use Marketplace.
That's shocking. Yeah, I definitely like Craigslist. I thought is like where you list tickets for concerts and you list your apartment for rent. But everyone in Phoenix uses OfferUp, man. Like OfferUp took over Craigslist.
I bought electronics, musical equipment, furniture on Craigslist, but then I stopped like probably 5 years ago because I just use Marketplace. Anyways.
Yeah, Marketplace or OfferUp. Those are like the 2 that I see the most. Poshmark is great for clothes as well. Reselling clothes. But anyhow, the last thing I want to mention is a pro for Etsy. Another one that I remembered is that Etsy is very known for gift giving. Like for finding gifts for people. You hear about so many Etsy sellers, the successful ones who really make a lot of their sales in Q4 because Etsy just has it's like synonymous with getting gifts for people. I've literally bought things on Etsy for my wife. I bought things on Etsy for my wedding. Like there is a lot of stuff on there. And it just kind of is known as like a gift giving. Like when you're looking for a gift for someone, you go to Etsy and that's where you look. So, yeah. All right. Why don't we transition to the cons?
Let's do it.
And I'll jump in here and get started. So the first con, and this one I talk about quite a bit, but it's very important. Rented versus owned platform. So unlike Shopify, which is an owned platform, just like owned real estate, Etsy is a rented platform like rented real estate. So it's a marketplace like Amazon or eBay. Let's give eBay a shout out again, where you are renting space on their real estate. So Etsy is the landlord, you are the tenant, and this terrifies me, but they can evict you at any time by terminating your account. And I'm going to get to talking a little bit more about that. But I just want to say the way I like to explain this, in case that was super confusing, is that Shopify is like buying your own physical location or building your own physical location on a piece of real estate and building a storefront like a McDonald's, a Nike store, a Allbirds store, something like that, where you can build it the way that you want, and you can create a very beautiful, curated, aesthetic customer experience, but you need to attract your own traffic. So you have this beautiful shop, it's conversion optimized, you got awesome products, but then you got to raise awareness that it exists. Etsy, on the other hand, is like renting a booth at a craft fair. There are already people coming to the craft fair, which is great, since hopefully they'll pass by your booth and you can sell them products, but you are limited in terms of the presentation. You can set up your booth, you can put up a banner, you can hang up your products on little hangers, but more importantly, you're renting that space and they can boot you out at any time.
Well, the other thing about that is to think about it in this way is if you have that booth at that craft fair, you're limited by how many people can fit in that building or how many people are coming to that craft fair, right? With Shopify, it's like you're going out and the audience is almost unlimited. You know what I mean? So it's like, there's a little bit of you're limited on Etsy really by how many people are searching that term or whatever that's going to bring up that's kind of how many people are coming to the craft fair, right? Is how many people are searching for that design or that product that you're selling.
Right. And the other thing I should mention is that there's a lot of booths selling the exact same stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
and they'll be selling it for cheaper.
So imagine sitting at that craft fair and you're with 10 other booths that are selling the exact same product, all competing for the same amount of people there. And
really all they have is price to go on as a differentiator, because all the booths kind of look the same. They can do a couple little things with presentation, but you don't have a lot of customization in Etsy, which is a blessing and a curse. It's amazing because there's less work. There's less to do but it's limiting in the sense that it's harder to differentiate from other Etsy stores. And what you see is a lot of Etsy sellers competing on price, or you see them matching the price of their competitors, which a lot of time from what I see is like $18.99 to maybe $22.99 for a t-shirt. Whereas with a branded experience and a website where you're only featuring your own products and you can show your products in their absolute best light, you can easily push that up to like $24 to $29.99. If you want to really level up your marketing and your branding, you could push that further between, $30 to $40 for a t-shirt.
For sure.
So that's pretty big. But this kind of leads me talking about the rented versus owned platform. It leads me into the next con of Etsy, is that they can literally shut down your account in the snap of a finger. And it's very common to get your account suspended or paused until they verify your banking information. This happens to a lot of Etsy sellers at the beginning, and most times you'll get it back. However, there are a lot of instances where Etsy shops get permanently banned, and that means game over. You're done. Like your Etsy shop is done. You have to go somewhere else. And in most cases, it's because an Etsy shop owner violated the terms of service for Etsy, like selling trademark items. Disney.
So common.
Guys, please stop selling Disney on Etsy, please. Your risk every day, you are risking getting your account permanently banned, and that is just not worth it. Disney, Nike, Taylor Swift, bans, brands, lots of things. There are so many. It is just like a breeding ground for copyright and trademark infringement. And it's brutal. It's absolutely brutal. And you're going to go on there and you're going to see tons of Disney designs. Do not be tempted into doing your own. Trust me, it's a bad idea. It is a ticking time bomb. Those people are very likely, even if they've made lots of sales and you're like, how have they made 10,000 sales and they're selling Disney? Time will be the judge. A lot of them are going to be gone. So I would stay away from that with the 10-foot pole. But I've also heard that a lot of Etsy sellers got their accounts permanently shut down for reasons that they didn't agree with, that they didn't understand, and they didn't even seem that extreme. Like they didn't really seem like they were doing anything wrong, and they were unable to get their accounts back. Etsy gets to make the final call. You do not. And that is very, very scary, especially if Etsy is your livelihood. Like any day at any time, this can happen. And personally, that gives me a lot of anxiety just thinking about it. Imagine you spent months or years building up a successful Etsy shop. It's your primary source of income. Maybe you quit your job to do it full time, only to have all your hard work permanently disappear overnight, all gone. That would be devastating. You would need to scramble to create a Shopify store or find another marketplace really quick and hope you can replicate your success, or have to get a job again. It's just really unfortunate. And for me personally, my Etsy store, if it got terminated, I couldn't care less because most of my sales are coming to Shopify. Like it would cause little to no disruption to my business. And that's what I like about having both is Shopify, you're not risking like them terminating your account, but you're also getting the benefits of Etsy. So Etsy can shut down your account at any time. That's the second con. The third con, when you use rented platforms like Etsy, you are completely at the mercy of their algorithm and their rules. So Etsy has a lot of rules that the sellers must abide by, and they do algorithm changes just like social media does. And overnight, this can really affect your sales. So you need to always be knowing how the algorithm is working and always be, figuring out ways to maintain that level of success. So with an own platform like Shopify, you own all your own data. And this is like in line with the same con, but it's a bit different. With an own platform like Shopify, you own all your data while Etsy holds back much of it. So the benefit of having all that customer information is that, for example, if your Etsy store was terminated and you also had a Shopify store, you would still have all the customer data, their information, their emails, their phone numbers, and you could continue operating your business many times with little disruption. Like in my case, if I lost my Etsy store, it would be no big deal because hardly any of my sales are coming from Etsy. Yeah. And maybe that's on me. Like I don't put a lot of energy into Etsy because for me, my Shopify store is so much more scalable. I can run ads at a profit. I can scale them up really quick when I have winning designs.
Wait. One thing you didn't mention is, you just said I can run ads. You can't even you can turn on ads in Etsy and let them run them for you. But you just talked about rules. One of the rules is on Etsy, you can't even run at your own ads. So if you were to run
Etsy ads.
Yeah, you can run Etsy ads. Yeah. But if you were to go set up your own ads and try to run them to your Etsy store, they could shut you down your account, right? Like they could just terminate your account.
Can they actually? I'm actually not entirely sure. I just thought it would be highly unprofitable to run ads.
No, you cannot run ads. 100%. You cannot. You cannot run your own ads. No,
I was not aware of that.
Yeah, that's against their terms of service because you'd be directly competing with them.
Yeah, good point. Yeah. And Etsy ads, we'll talk about that in a bit. But Etsy ads are extremely competitive, and it's very hard to make a profit with them. There's a lot of people running Etsy ads at a loss just to get sales, because with sales, you get bumped higher up in the search results. And so if you take a loss for a bit and you get higher up, the hope is that more people, you'll improve your visibility and that'll improve your sales. So, but going back to the kind of customer data thing, with Etsy, you do not own the customer data. Etsy is similar to Amazon and eBay. It's a bit better than Amazon, I would say. Like Etsy actually allows you to collect emails. I'm pretty sure they didn't used to allow you to collect emails, but they do now. But you're not supposed to really do any other marketing aside from marketing to your Etsy store. So it's not quite like the emails that you're going to send to people who subscribe to your website. You can send them anything you want, and you can create a really good branded experience, bringing them back to your website. This, you're only supposed to send them emails about Etsy, like to bring them back to Etsy. Is there anything else you want to say about that before I move on to the next con?
I don't think so. You did great.
Okay. The next con, this is a big one for me. This is a really big one for me. You cannot sell your Etsy business. They do not allow it. So there is no resale value since Etsy doesn't allow you to sell your shop. You can sell your designs or your products to someone and they can load them into their own store, but you cannot sell an Etsy shop. It is not a tangible, like valuable asset with any resale value. And that is a huge bummer. With Shopify, you can sell your shop and you can make a lot of money. If you're doing this, like I have sold a Shopify store. I have friends who have sold their Shopify store, and all of them were print on demand stores. And we made from the mid to the high 5 figures selling purely print on demand stores. No overhead, no inventory, nothing. We just handed over our website, handed over the domain, handed over our assets like our social media channels, our email list, our SMS list. And there was so much value in that. Like I was able to sell my store in the high 5 figures after 2 years. And it was a side hustle. Like it was my secondary print on demand store. I had my first one, and then I had the second one that I started with my brother. And within 14 months, we were able to get to 6 figures. And within 2 years, it was sold in the high 5 figures. And there was no physical inventory or overhead that we had to hand over. It was a very simple and seamless process. You cannot do that with Etsy. So, if you do want to create if you want to create a revenue stream, then Etsy can make a lot of sense. If you're like, all I care about is money now, I don't care about creating anything valuable that I could potentially resell in the future. I don't care about building a brand. I just want some revenue coming in, maybe a little side hustle revenue. Then Etsy can make a lot of sense for that. However, in Shopify, you can build a business that is an asset. Etsy, if that's what you want, like if you want to build a brand with brand loyal customers and raving fans and an asset that you can one day sell, Etsy doesn't make a lot of sense because you just cannot do it. So you would need to create a Shopify store or some other platform eventually if you wanted to build a business that you can sell for a big payout. And that is something I would recommend. Like if you're on Etsy right now and you're making good money and you want to do this for the long term, diversify over to Shopify. Start building an asset that you can resell and take advantage of both platforms. That's what I would say.
For sure.
I also think it could be particularly tough to sell a print-on-demand business since you don't have, you can't hand over customer data. A lot of Etsy sellers have no social media presence. They have little to no email lists or SMS lists. Some have big email lists if a lot of people have bought from them, but you're not supposed to be reusing this. You're supposed to be using this just to sell more Etsy stuff. So you might have an email list. I don't even think you can collect phone numbers in Etsy. I'm not entirely sure, but there's just, more incentive for people to kind of, if they want a revenue stream, go to Etsy. But if you want to create something lasting and you want to create like a brand that you really care, passionate about, and that matters, and you want to make kind of like a mission-based brand, Shopify is absolutely the place to do that. And because Etsy just doesn't give you a lot of opportunity to. What's that?
And if you want to scale it higher, Shopify is the way to go. I was going to say there's conflicting information out there about email lists and different things on Etsy. I've heard you can't build one. I've heard you can build one. I think the answer to that is that you can build an email list, but there are specific terms and conditions that you have to follow, and so it makes it more difficult, and where most Etsy sellers aren't building an email list because it just doesn't make sense, right? Like what you said. You said you could build an email list, but it's really only supposed to be used to send more people back to Etsy.
Right.
Which is like one of the huge values of an email list is, that's where the biggest value in your company is because there's customer data there. And if you ever go to sell your business, that email list is extremely important, right? Because there's so much customer data in there. You can add, you can go to that email list. You can sell whatever products you want to sell. You can sell over and over. It's like, so when you build an email list on Etsy, if it's tied to Etsy, it's almost like it's their data. They own it, not you, even though you've been building that email list. You know what I mean? Right. So I just wanted to kind of bring that up. It kind of goes back to what you were talking about on, rented versus owned, and just kind of being at the mercy of the Etsy terms and conditions
of the landlord.
Yeah. The mercy of the craft fair landlord.
Right. The last thing I'll say about, not being able to sell your business is there is a lot of incentive, and I would never encourage this. I strongly discourage this, but there is a lot of incentive if someone likes your Etsy store for them literally just to create their own, steal your designs and get them up there. And Etsy is just a hotbed for this. Like, you go there and you search any trending design and there's like 500 listings with the exact same slogan. And it's hard to stand out in that crowd. You know what I mean? Whereas on your website, you're only showing, people are only seeing your designs, they're only seeing your products, and you're only promoting and cross-promoting your products. So plus, you built everything up over time with Shopify. You got your customer data, every sale, every email, every SMS, every piece of customer data, your social media following. These are all assets in one big asset that would be very hard for someone to replicate. It would take a lot of time, and they couldn't get access to a lot of the stuff that you have. But with Etsy, a lot of people, they can literally just go throw up their store and then just copy all your designs. And I hope that those stores get taken down, because we never ever recommend that anyone do this. It's a terrible strategy that ends up, backfiring a lot of people, as it should, because it's highly unethical, but it's possible and it's easy. Like, you could throw up an Etsy store right now and you could just take a bunch of stuff from all the best selling stores. And this is what people do all the time. Like, the best sellers, like, Etsy is a crowded marketplace with a lot of the exact same products. So that kind of leads me to my next con, which is Etsy cross promotes competing products. I do not like that. I am not a fan of that, because
we both have stores. If we both have Etsy stores, and somebody searches and they find my product, Etsy can just put your product right on the side, and promote that, or promote it any way they want. They can put our products side by side, right? Two different stores, two different business owners, and keep going.
I don't like that. Like, the nice thing about a Shopify store is no one is promoting anything else. Like, you can cross promote your other products, which is great because it helps you increase your order values. And it shows, you can feature other products that people might like. There's likely other products in your store that they will like. And you can add apps for upsells and cross sells. You can do a lot of things to move up that average order value. Mm-hmm. And people aren't getting distracted by your competitors. They're not seeing another item that looks similar to yours for $2 cheaper and jumping over there, leaving your shop to go to this other one and completing their purchase there. Not a fan. I still think having Etsy as a complimentary sales channel is awesome, but not as a primary channel. I love that you fully control the marketing and the branding experience from a Shopify store.
Love it.
Next, Etsy is not customizable like a website. So this is kind of a pro and a con. The pro is that it's very simple and easy to use, and it's very simple to set up an Etsy shop. However, the con is that there's very little branding, and it's hard to differentiate yourself from every other Etsy shop because a lot of them are using the exact same limited strategies. And that can lead to a lot of people having trouble finding your shop. And then when they find your shop, they see a whole bunch of other ones that look just like yours that are selling very similar products. And there's a chance that they're going to go buy them from them. So there's just not a lot of branding options. You can't create a very curated, well-branded experience for the customers. And I think this reduces the chance that they're going to become brand advocates, like very brand loyal, raving fans of your brand, because you just can't do as much. Like on Shopify, you can even create a blog. It's baked right in. You can create a blog in your Shopify store. That is a feature of a Shopify store. You cannot do that in Etsy. I have heard that they've been asking Etsy users if they're interested in that feature. So one thing that, I like about Etsy is that they're constantly evolving. I also like this about Shopify. They're always evolving and usually in most cases getting better and kind of taking the advice of their sellers who are really what pays the bills for them, and offering them, improving the whole platform. But as far as I know right now, there's no blog option. You really can't tell a big brand story, or, well, I mean, you could in the little description part, but it's just not the same. It's very limited. Mm-hmm. So the next con for Etsy is poor tracking. So there just isn't good tracking if you're running external ads like Facebook ads, which you can't run them, as Kerry mentioned, to your Etsy store anyways. But even if you did, if you were running external ads like Facebook or Instagram or TikTok ads, or even driving social media traffic to your website, that's going to be difficult to track. There's no way, as far as I know, of tracking it. So if you're driving that traffic to Etsy, which sounds like it's actually against their terms of service, you can't track where any of those people are coming from. And that's problematic because there's a lot of value in knowing where your customers are coming from so you can double down on that channel, wherever that is. So next con is that they have very little customization options. And this is kind of in line with it being not as customizable as a website. So it's very difficult to stand out amongst Etsy shops and not as easy to increase order values with upsells and cross sells, because a lot of times they're cross-selling your competitors. And on your website, you just have more control over that entire experience to drive up those average order values. This next one is the one that is probably one of the worst cons for Etsy, and that is that everyone just seems to steal everyone's designs. There's so much spy software that so many Etsy users are selling, or using, I should say, and they're just stealing people's designs. And this absolutely happens on Shopify. Make no mistake. You think copyright, there is a ton of copyright infringement on Shopify. It's a problem. But if you think copyright infringement is bad on Shopify, Etsy is far worse, in my opinion. And worst of all, many times these copycats, they'll be promoted alongside your original designs. I've actually had, so get this, one Etsy seller had the audacity to report us for one of our original designs, claiming that it was their own. And I've heard of this happening to other Etsy sellers as well. So there are Etsy sellers that go looking for copycats, and they'll just keep submitting, kind of similar to DMCA takedowns in Etsy, to try to get those copycat listings taken down. Wow. And that's fair if you are the original creator. That's okay. But it was one of our designs that I created myself. I remember creating this original design myself, and someone ripped it off. And they had the audacity to submit a takedown request for hours. So we had to go back and forth battling. They were super rude and arrogant and just could not, even though we proved to them, we sent them a social media post from 2017, years before they reported us, and they could not show us evidence because they didn't have any. I knew they didn't have any because I created the design. They could not show us evidence that they created the design any sooner. And they still pushed back and said that we were stealing from them. I'm like, dude, I'm showing you evidence. You are not showing us any of that evidence. And I know you don't have any. Eventually, that store, I think they ended up getting terminated or something. They did not do well. They had a lot of bad reviews. A lot of people did not like them. And I'm pretty sure the store eventually got terminated or something, which I didn't do. But I was just very frustrated with that experience that someone would do that.
That's wild.
Yeah, it was wild. It was absolutely wild. So there's just a lot of people stealing people's designs, and it's not as bad with a Shopify store, I feel like, because Etsy, it's just everyone's competing on kind of SEO, it seems like, and they're all seeing the best performers and just copying them, and they're all in the same craft market, if you want to say. So someone's walking around the craft market, they're seeing 30 of the exact same store. It reminds me when I was in Thailand or the Philippines, you walk through a market where there's these huts selling shirts, and they're all selling the exact same shirts. I feel like that's kind of, where Etsy has gone to some extent. All right, enough about that. The next thing I want to say is that it is very competitive, And many people are using the exact same strategy, relying solely on SEO to get discovered. So if you talk to pretty much any Etsy coach, they're gonna be like, yeah, Etsy SEO that's where it's at. You want to have good imagery. You want to have SEO rich titles. You want to have SEO rich tags. You want to have SEO rich descriptions. And that's kind of it. But what if everyone is just using all the same titles and all the same tags and all the same descriptions? Then how do you stand out and differentiate? I would think price, but you never want to compete on price, and you don't want it to be a race to the bottom, because eventually it's going to get to a point where someone's unprofitable. And I'm not a fan of that. I like creating brands and not competing on price, and competing on perceived value instead, increasing your perceived value and building trust amongst passionate raving fans of your brand and everything they do. And those people are not so price sensitive. They want to support you. They love your brand. They love what you do. They love your products. Etsy is harder to build that. So,
dude, you got a lot of cons, bro.
Yeah, there's a couple.
You got a lot of cons, Etsy. You got a hater.
No, dude. Okay.
You love it. You love Etsy. You love Etsy.
Don't get me wrong. I do love Etsy. I use Etsy. I make sales from Etsy. But there are quite a few cons, and I just want to lay it all out there. So the next one is you're limited on items that you can sell. So with Etsy, it has to be handmade, or it has to be made by you, or it has to be print on demand. You cannot sell mass-produced items, even if you white label them, and even if they may be a great addition to your store. So for example, I had a friend who started a 6-figure brand. I think within like the first year, I'm positive within like the first year, they created a 6-figure brand in the fitness niche, and they were using print on demand. It was all apparel. And they were like, how can we scale? Like, how can we offer other products and diversify and kind of differentiate from every other apparel fitness brand? So they decided to drop ship jewelry, specifically fitness inspired jewelry. And they actually made a lot of sales of those, but it was mass produced. I think they were getting it from AliExpress, which I'm not a fan of. Lots of issues there, but they were getting it from AliExpress, and it was being drop shipped directly to the customer. But they were allowed to do that. You cannot do that on Etsy. So that is a limitation. You have to make sure that whatever you're selling, it's within the terms and conditions of Etsy. The last two things, it's difficult to run ads profitably, like run Etsy ads profitably. You don't hear about a whole lot of Etsy sellers running ads profitably or very profitably, maybe at break even or even at a loss, since they're quite expensive because there's so much competition in the Etsy ecosystem. So many people are trying to run ads, and that's making it more expensive for everyone. And many sellers, they're selling t-shirts for super cheap, like let's say $18 to $22, like I mentioned before, to compete with other Etsy sellers. But then that doesn't give you any profit. That doesn't give you much profit to run ads. So what we usually recommend is creating a brand and selling at a higher price point, and then using your profits to run ads, to run profitable ads. But within the Etsy ecosystem, the ads, it's just hard to make them profitable because a lot of people are selling their products for very cheap, very like low cost. And the last thing I will say is it's difficult to scale because aside from just continuously adding new listings and focusing on SEO, which pretty much everyone is doing with many of the same designs too, there's just, what do you do then? Like if you have a winning design, I had an Etsy seller reach out to me not too long ago, and they said, I need to get onto Shopify because Etsy is way too competitive and everyone just steals my designs. As soon as I have a winning design, it's everywhere and everyone just steals it. And that's the problem. When everyone's doing the exact same really simple SEO strategy and they're using the exact same products, it's very hard to create any differentiated experience, and it's hard to stand up from the crowd. So with a Shopify store, you can create a completely unique and very branded experience. Not to mention, you can have a big social media presence, which technically you could have with Etsy too, but a lot of people just don't do it because the big draw is you don't have to market. Traffic is being driven to the platform. And so a lot of people don't have a social media presence or they don't take it seriously. Whereas we recommend that you do, and that you build a following of raving fans on there that eventually, if not are already customers. So it's also easy to scale with ads. And what I like about having a Shopify store is maybe it does take a little bit of time to build it and to find winning designs and to, collect emails. But guess what? When you find that winning design, it is quick. Success can come very, very quick. I'm talking like days. Like you can be 5 figures within days of having a winning design. You could be 6 figures within a month, even a week of having a winning design. That would be much more challenging to do in Etsy.
Dude,
anything you'd like to add, Kerry?
I want to add one thing about the ads, just so everybody kind of knows a little bit more about Etsy ads. There's 2 types of Etsy ads you can run. There's on-site ads and off-site ads. So on-site ads are where you can place ads in the search on Etsy. So somebody searches, mountain t-shirt, and that you turn on-site ads, like it can rank your ad up there. Now with on-site, or it'll show your ad at the top. With on-site ads, you pay per click. So anytime somebody clicks on your item, those can actually get pretty unprofitable. They can be pretty expensive. But the other type of ads is off-site ads, which means you allow Etsy to run ads on Facebook, Instagram, or Google, or anywhere. Now, those are actually kind of a no-brainer. I don't know if you know this, but if you do, I think less than 10,000 per month, or it's either 10,000 per month or 10,000 per year, they charge you a 15% fee of the sale. So 15% of the sale. I think if you do over 100,000, it's either per month or it's probably per year. If you do over 100,000, they lower it to, I think, 12%. So those are actually kind of like a no-brainer, because as long as you set your margins correctly, if Etsy gets you a sale from a Facebook ad, you just pay a 15% fee. So actually, they're basically always profitable as long as your pricing is correct. Unless you go too low, then that could create issues like with print on demand. But the offsite ads are pretty cool. So it's kind of a pro, but also a con in that you mentioned that you can't scale them. Like,
no,
the problem is
really
with,
tough.
Excuse me, I've got it. Sorry, try to mute and missed it. A little something in my throat, a little tickle.
Hey, at least there's not a fly in the room.
There's no fly this week. There's no fly this week. But what I was going to mention is, you could go into Etsy and you could go into the ads section and you can be like, I want to spend $500 per day, and it will never spend that. Like it will never run that much ads. It's this weirdest thing of like, it's so hard to scale. I've talked to so many Etsy sellers that they just can't, because they can't scale up the ads. It's just like, you're basically at the mercy of Etsy SEO. And then if you have a really, really hot product, Etsy might push the ads a little more, but it's just like, you can't scale it. I don't know how to scale it, which is why the best Etsy sellers are only making, $5,000-$10,000 a month. Like it's just because it's so hard to scale.
And like these cons, like we're not making a case to not use Etsy. We're just saying, why not use both? Why not use both eventually?
Definitely.
My recommendation has always, and most likely will always be, start with Shopify. So you have that owned platform. You can actually build a real brand, a tangible asset that's resellable, and you can build that out and use Etsy as a complementary sales channel.
Don't rely on Etsy as your primary platform. That's the big mistake.
Yes. And, I hear a lot of Etsy coaches who are awesome and put out a lot of awesome content, and I'm friends with a lot of them. But a lot of them are saying, expect that you'll make a lot of sales in Q4 when there's a lot of traffic to Etsy, and then expect that it'll just die out in the new year. I'm like, but it doesn't have to. You can keep driving traffic to your website. Like January is consistently one of our best months of the year for sales to our Shopify store, consistently. Like almost never do any months beat January, not even Black Friday, Cyber Monday, not even December or even November. Like January is one of our best months for sales, and we're not reliant on the SEO and that, like the Shopify or the Etsy traffic completely caving in January. We can keep income steady throughout the year, which is just much more sustainable in my opinion. All right.
I'm going to take Shopify Pros.
Go ahead. Yep.
I'm going to take Shopify Pros. We've covered a lot of these in kind of comparing with Etsy. So I'm gonna move pretty fast, but let's talk about some pros of Shopify. So number one, Shopify is an owned platform. So we've explained this a ton of times. We use the analogy, you're at the craft fair, you got the booth with Etsy. With Shopify, it's like you own the freaking building where the craft fair is, right? Like You own the whole thing. That means you own the customer data. That means you own the email list. That means you can take everything and move your domain off of Shopify over to somewhere else if you want to rebuild it somewhere else and you want to leave Shopify. Like, you own the entire business. You're not at the mercy of, a marketplace like Amazon or Etsy or one of these places. So that is huge. And that is one of the biggest things with building a business is like, you want to have ownership. You can add a Facebook pixel to your Shopify store, to your website, so that you can track a ton of data through Facebook ads and optimize your ads and all those kind of things. And like, there's just so much to that. Like, you want to own your business. You don't want to be 100% at the mercy of a social media platform or a marketplace like Etsy.
You can build audiences. You can build custom audiences. You can build lookalike audiences from your Shopify data. And then you can run ads to those individuals. Like, you can tell Facebook and Instagram, go out and find people like my buyers, like them, with similar traits to them. And you can target those people with ads. Man, that's powerful. That is very powerful stuff.
Going along with that, but one thing I want to add on the next point here, the next pro is you are in full control of the marketing. So we just mentioned that, right? Like, you can collect email addresses, you can collect SMS, you can collect pixel data and all of that stuff, phone numbers, anything, right? And you can market to those assets however you want. But one other thing I want to add, because it's actually not a pro on here, it should probably be its own pro, but I want to add it to this section, is the Shopify App Store. Like, it's just such a huge, oh my gosh, there's thousands and thousands and thousands of apps in the Shopify App Store that you can do so many different things. But one of the specific things is you can add additional ways to market and increase your average order value through those apps. So things like cross sales and upsells, right? And in any kind of which way, whether you want to do post-purchase upsells or before the purchase or a pop-up, to upsell, like, you have apps for that you can go and you can integrate these softwares and work together with Shopify to boost, your sales and your marketing and all the different things. There's apps to do all kinds of stuff. That's just a very, very small portion. But man, anything you want to do on your store, like, you can find an app. There's thousands and thousands of apps. Track data, improve customer data that we've been talking about in different ways and use it in different ways. Shopify apps for that. Upsells and cross sells, print on demand, drop shipping, and product sourcing. I mean, the list goes on and on. There's so much you can do with Shopify apps.
Yeah, and can I just jump in there for a sec? Yeah. I totally agree. Like, the App Store is a huge pro in my opinion. However, I do think an argument could be made by some people saying that it's a con as well, because there's so much that you can do. And, well, first of all, it means more. Like, you got to go find those apps. You got to connect them to your store. Some you may need to manage some stuff in them. Sure. They can break. Something could go wrong with them.
That's happened to me.
Yeah,
sure.
It's happened. So there can be issues that come along with that. Whereas Etsy, because you don't have a lot of these options, no issues come along with them. So an argument could be made either way, that that's a pro or a con. I think we're both in clear agreement that the App Store is a huge pro.
For sure. I think it's a huge pro. Definitely for me. I think it's awesome. But I understand it's like they've created this marketplace of so many apps that it can be a little bit overwhelming, right? Because sometimes if you go search for upsell, you might get 100 apps. If you go search for print on demand, it's like 400 apps, right? Like it's a lot. So there's definitely some research, but in my opinion, I like to have options versus not having options, right? Like if you go on, BigCommerce or Wix or something, right? And you're like, and you just want to install a print on demand and like the only option you have is Printful, and you don't like Printful, you have a bad experience or whatever, there's nowhere to switch. Like, you're stuck, right? Whereas with Shopify, there's so many different options through that app store, for sure.
Yep.
Okay, next pro of Shopify is the branding, right? And I like the example we have here of on Etsy, you're building a t-shirt business. On Shopify, you can build a clothing brand, right?
Very different. Very, very different.
Yeah. On Shopify, like, you can build an entire brand, right? Let's say hypothetically, Adrian, you built a website and you built this brand through Shopify, and then you decide one day, I'd really like to open a retail store. Like, you can literally open a retail store and order a device from Shopify to take credit cards, and everything will integrate with your Shopify account. The inventory, the payments, like, you can own multiple
customer data.
Yeah, customer data. everything could be integrated into one account. You could have multiple locations across the world along with your website, and everything can be managed in Shopify. It's so powerful.
And people do it all the time.
Yeah,
people
absolutely.
do it all the time as a scaling method. You hear about so many Shopify brands that create physical location. Allbirds started out e-commerce. I think Casper, Warby Parker. There's all these e-com unicorns that now have physical locations all over the place, and they started on Shopify, and it was very easy for them to scale out to physical locations. So it kind of goes back to creating that tangible, valuable asset that's very scalable and resellable.
And that brings us, what a great transition to our next pro, which is it is scalable. We mentioned at the beginning, some of the biggest brands in the world actually have their websites hosted on Shopify. And so Shopify is scalable infinitely, right? You can go to 6 figures in a matter of weeks. And you can go to 7 figures, multi-7 figures, 8 figures, 9-figure brands, on Shopify. So Shopify can grow with you. You can grow as you're using Shopify, like as high as possible, right? There's no limit to how high you can scale your brand with Shopify. And the reason is because you're not at the mercy of a platform like Etsy that is in control of your marketing, right? Because you're in control of your marketing and your brand, you can scale it so much higher.
Yeah. And you could market your Etsy listings and stuff on social media. There are marketing channels that you can do. I don't see a lot of people doing it, or I don't see them taking it very seriously. I see a lot of them relying heavily on Etsy SEO, which is not very scalable. The only really way to scale that is just to keep dropping new products all the time. And that's kind of it. And then run ads if you can make it profitable in Etsy.
The next pro is you're building a sellable asset. When you build again, going back to the same example, when you build a t-shirt business, I just sell these random t-shirt designs. Like, why would somebody want to buy that business from you? What tangible, data or asset do you have that's going to be worth value? But when you build a brand, oh my gosh, there's so much value, right? Because of the customer list, because of the email list, because of the inventory, or because of the social media assets and the pixel and like the domain and the all that stuff. Like it's
social media following, big social media following.
Yeah. All that stuff is so valuable. So again, you had some examples here of people that that have sold Shopify stores for different amounts. That's there's hundreds of sales, probably thousands of sales per day that happen with Shopify, where people are selling Shopify stores, and some of those are 7+ figures that they're selling, their Shopify stores for. So you're not going to sell your Etsy brand, Etsy store. It just doesn't happen.
You can't. You're not allowed. It's against the terms.
There you go.
Even if you wanted to, you couldn't. All you could do is sell your designs and your products and maybe some inventory if you have inventory or something like that. But you cannot transfer your store to someone else. As far as I know, Etsy does not allow that. Whereas Shopify, people are doing it all the freaking time. I probably could have gotten more from my store. I wasn't even trying that hard because I didn't know how to sell. I sell physical products, man. I sell print on demand products. I did not know how to sell a business. So I just put it on, what was it called? I don't think they have it anymore. It was called Shopify something. It was where you could just list your business for sale on Shopify. And a lot of people use websites like Flippa to sell their Shopify stores, but Shopify used to have their own, which was really nice because it was monitored by Shopify. They were involved in the process and it avoided a lot of shady business. But the downside is I didn't know how to do it. So I settled for a high 5 figures. I probably could have got more, but I was happy with that. That was amazing money on top of all the profit I made for my business. I was able to sell it in the high 5 figures, which is great. That could be a down payment on an apartment. That could be a brand new, sparkly, really nice car. There is a lot you could do with that.
The next one here is interesting one. I actually never really thought about this. I always thought of Etsy being way cheaper, but I don't think it. I think you're right. I don't think it is. The next pro is lower fees. So Shopify, the basic plan for Shopify is $29 per month. If you pay annually, it's $39 per month if you're paying monthly. So $29 if you decide to pay for a whole year, $39 if you decide to pay per month. And then the only fees you pay after that is credit card processing fees, which is 2.9% plus 30 cents per transaction. So in most cases, this is actually going to be cheaper than what you're paying on Etsy in fees. The Etsy fees I just looked up, 6.5%. So you don't pay a monthly fee for Etsy as far as like it's free to start an Etsy store, but you do have to pay 20 cents per listing. So every time you list a new product, it's 20 cents, not a significant amount, but 20 cents. And then when you actually make a sale, you pay 6.5% in fees. So that's like double what you pay on Shopify. I didn't really put that together.
Yeah, it's common misconception. And I mean, you could argue that you're like, well, marketing is baked into Etsy. And so you're not having to run ads because there's traffic going to the marketplace. However, that traffic is not going directly to your store. You have to find a way to stand out over that crowded market and be seen over everyone else. But
and then if you do turn on the offsite ads, I mean, 15%, I guess on top of the 6.5%. On top of the 6.5%. It's like,
yeah, pretty pricey.
That's a lot. Yeah. All right. Next pro of Shopify, more product types available to sell. So, drop shipping obviously is huge still. And the drop shipping has gotten so much better and just different than it was years ago. Like years ago, it was like all you had was China drop shipping, AliExpress. But now, there are private label brands and warehouses and companies like US based that you can drop ship products from. And obviously, print on demand is a form of drop shipping. And because you have access to hundreds more print on demand companies, that gives you access to thousands and thousands of different types of products. I did a video on my YouTube channel probably 4 or 5 months ago, and it was like, here are the weirdest products you can sell with print on demand. And I just did like this list of just crazy print on demand products. Dude, like
there's some crazy stuff. Dude, there's some really crazy
you
stuff.
You can go build a soap brand and never have to buy soap. Like it's print on demand. You can go build a freaking candle brand.
Yep. You know a shoe brand. You can build a shoe brand and never have to hold a shoe.
There was this company that does 3D printed items. So you could upload your own design of and they will 3D print it and you can sell it with print on demand. I could be like, oh, I want a sculpture of, a Pikachu, and like, they'll just 3D print the Pikachu and send it. Like, it's crazy. Like,
might be some trademark issues there, but
yeah, don't do that. Don't do that. But I was looking at this of Charmander that my son made me on my desk. So I was thinking of Pokemon, but anyways.
Yeah, no, it's true though. You can sell mass-produced products. You can sell dropship products. You can sell private label products. You can sell subscriptions, which you can't do on Etsy.
Subscriptions is huge, yeah.
There are just so many more options of what you can sell. You can sell, it seems like pretty much anything on a Shopify store. Whereas on Etsy, you are limited. There are rules in place that say you cannot sell this, or this.
Mm-hmm. Pretty crazy. The last pro we have here of Shopify, excellent integrations with social media platforms like Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, Pinterest, Google, and more. Here's the thing. One of the things that I'm thinking of is, Shopify is such a huge company and platform that, these social media platforms, like, that's the first place they go when they're like, who should we integrate with? Because we want to start offering Facebook shops, Instagram shops, TikTok shops, right? We want to sell more on our platform. They're like, oh, Shopify has the most, brands and stores, and they have huge brands, small brands. I mean, they're going to go directly to Shopify. Anytime that there's, these kind of connections that need to be made, Shopify is always the first one to have those integrations. So it's just crazy because, like we mentioned, like Facebook shops, Instagram shops, right?
TikTok shops
had so much success with those where people can buy on the platform, but like all that's still running on the back end through your Shopify store, and it's able to connect through to print on demand and drop shipping or whatever you're doing. And so like, you just don't have that on Etsy. You don't have that ability, right?
Dude, this is like a newer thing, and one that I've never heard talked about before. Maybe it's because Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok shops are also new. I've never heard this talked about, but Etsy, you cannot, as far as I know, you cannot integrate your products on shops, on Facebook, Instagram, or TikTok shops from Etsy. And I'm pretty sure right now, the majority of my sales are coming from Instagram and Facebook shops. more so than even our website, but you cannot do that with Etsy. I hope that would be awesome for Etsy sellers. That'd be awesome if you could connect it. And maybe in the future, they will have direct integration, which is huge. Like a huge amount of sales can come from these platforms. And it's a huge differentiator, in my opinion, being able to allow social media users like on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok to stay within app and complete their purchase.
Well, another one that we didn't even mention here is YouTube, because, and the only reason I bring that up, I know a lot of people aren't necessarily selling through YouTube, but the only reason I bring that up is because what happened with YouTube was they had a direct integration with, I believe it was Teespring, and then they added SPOD as another print-on-demand integration, where basically creators could have a merch shelf below the YouTube video, where they could sell merch from their YouTube channel, and they could have their own store through SPOD or Spring. There might have been a couple other, but then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, I believe it was last year, YouTube just goes, you know what? We're just integrated with Shopify. They just added this Shopify integration, which opened up the world, right? Like it opened up everything, because now, if you're selling on YouTube or you're a creator or whatever, you can just open a Shopify store, which means you can sell any kind of products, not just print on demand, but you can also now integrate with any print on demand company, not just SPOD or Teespring. So it's like, that's an example of what I'm mentioning, of like, these companies are always like, oh, we need more exposure or we want bigger integration. Shopify, like they're always going to Shopify, because Shopify is such a massive company. It's a publicly traded company, multiple billions of dollars per year, and the most e-commerce stores of any platform by a ton. So it's just, it's the go-to place. Hit me with the cons, Adrian.
Totally. All right. Let's go to the cons, because there, of course, are some cons to Shopify. So the first con, which we already talked about, is you have to drive your own traffic. So you have to learn marketing. You have to learn strategies to drive traffic to your website. Social media, email marketing, SMS marketing, Facebook ads, Google ads, SEO. These are all different strategies. And I'm not saying you need to know all of them. You really only need to be good at one or two of these, and you can create a very successful shop. There are a lot of different marketing strategies. We teach a lot of different marketing strategies. Like, we offer step-by-step video training on multiple different marketing strategies like these that you can use to drive traffic to your website and convert visitors into customers. But what we tell people is, when you're starting out, all you need is one traffic strategy to drive traffic to your website, cold traffic. So people who aren't aware of your brand, to make them aware, and to make them aware of your brand, and then to drive them to your website. So an example of that, what we call a primary acquisition channel, could be Instagram. You could just dominate Instagram. That could be your bread and butter. That could be where you focus all of your energy, and that can create a massively successful brand for you. And there are a lot of massively successful brands that are made, like Instagram is their bread and butter. That's the platform that they dominate. So we recommend one primary acquisition channel like Instagram, like Facebook, like TikTok, and then one retention channel, a primary retention channel. Just one is all you need. That could be email marketing. That could be SMS marketing. Those are the two most common. And what I mean by retention is like a channel to bring people back, a channel to, these people now know your brand exists because of your primary acquisition channel, and you use your retention channel to turn them into repeat customers. And email marketing, in my opinion, is still undisputedly the number one for this. SMS marketing is also very powerful, but I usually recommend starting with email marketing. So that is it. You have to drive your own traffic to your website. And that's
the only con. Have a good day.
That's it.
All right.
Good night, guys. Thank you very much. No. But that is huge. That is a really big differentiator, is you have to drive your own traffic. Etsy, they're bringing it to the marketplace, to the platform for you. The second one is that you do have to make a website. You have to create a website. There are, Shopify makes it super simple. You can do this in a day. And there are a lot of step-by-step tutorials on how to do this, including our own video training programs. I'm not just trying to plug our programs, but like, we teach this stuff all day, every day. But you do have to do this, versus Etsy, which is simpler, since you pretty much just list products. Like, you can create an Etsy shop really, really quick. And that's, the bad news is that other people can really quickly create a store just like yours and copy you. But the good news is that it's easy. It's easy. You can do it very, very quickly. The third con of Shopify is, and this was what Kerry talked about earlier. It's like you can argue whether this is a pro or a con, but you do have to install apps and plugins for certain features. So Shopify is not an all-inclusive where everything is built in. No, it does not work like that. You build your website. There's free themes that you can use for the aesthetic, but you do pretty much anything else aside from the website. You have, like upsells, cross sells, free shipping bars, countdown timers, the list goes on. There's apps for all these things, which is great, except it means that you need to find these apps. You need to add them. Things can go wrong. Like we mentioned, they cost money, a lot of them. So a lot of them are free or have a free plan, but a lot of them cost money. So you might be spending $29 a month if you're on the annual plan, or $39 a month if you're on the monthly plan. But then you might also be spending $50, $100, $200 a month on apps. And that's not, make sure that those apps are actually make sense to have and that it's profitable for you and there's a return on those apps. They can be, a lot of these apps pay for themselves multiple times over. But it can add up. Like those overhead costs, I'll call them, can add up. So the downside is that you need to install each of these on your store, and then you could have issues, and then there can be additional costs associated with the apps. So those are the three biggest cons, in my personal opinion, on for Shopify. Kerry, was there anything else that you can think of as cons for Shopify?
Man, I was thinking about that actually as you were going through those cons. I was like, is there any? I feel like we need to add more. I'm sure that.
I guess here's one.
There could be.
Here's one. Etsy, if you can get really good at mastering SEO, you can make sales organically, just purely based on SEO. I do find Shopify would be much more challenging because with SEO, because even though you can do it and it can help. But Etsy, the SEO is based on people that are going to their marketplace to shop and are searching for your designs.
Yeah, with Shopify, you're SEOing on Google, which is bajillion
versus the world
websites. Yeah.
Right. So SEO definitely is, I would say, much more powerful on Etsy than it is on Shopify.
I think I would also, maybe I put it this way. I want to be honest. I feel like if you're really like just wanting to dip your toes or get your feet wet and print on demand, I mean, Etsy, I think is a great way to do that, because you probably don't want to do all these other things that we're talking about yet. You will,
right?
Because likely what's going to happen is you're going to get on Etsy, and if you are able to start making some sales, like you'll make a few sales, you might get to that, like we've talked about. Maybe you get $500 a month, maybe you get $1,000 a month. But then when you look at it, you're having some success. And you say, man, I really like to do this full time, which is most of the people we work with, right? Is like the members in our 6-figure founder program, the members in my shirt school, like these are people who generally are like, I want to learn how to do this full time. So it would be wrong of us to be like, start on Etsy and then transition. Like, no, let's just start the right way on Shopify. But if you are somebody, you say, man, I just want to get my feet wet. I want to like learn a little bit about this print on demand thing. Like you could definitely get started on Etsy. You could also, if you're somebody who just wants to create a side hustle, because there are people out there like that as well, that you say, man, I love my full-time job. I would love to just add a little passive income.
I just want a couple $100 or $500 or $1,000, a month to just have.
Yeah. And you just say, I just want a little passive income, and I really like making designs and different things, Yeah, I think Etsy could be a great way to do that for sure.
Etsy is good for a creative outlet. Like, absolutely. The only thing that I would say is that the people that have the most success are actually creating the designs that people are already searching for. So they're using research tools like Everbee and Allura and eRank. There's a lot of tools that they're using to first find what the demand is for and then create products for that demand, which is brilliant. And I would say do the same thing for Shopify. You can absolutely use these tools and do the same thing for Shopify. And I believe that it can be even more powerful because you can create all these products with this demand that you can run your own traffic to, and it's not showing your competitors who are also using the same tools to run traffic to their Etsy shop. But that is really nice about, that is a nice thing. So I did think of another con of Shopify. Another con is that you have to work harder to build trust. And we talked about this a little bit.
True.
That's one of the pros of Etsy is the Etsy name. There's a lot of trust associated with. I would not hesitate to buy something from Etsy, even if I had never bought from that shop before. However, if I saw an ad for a website that I'd never seen before and I went to it, I would be more hesitant about completing the purchase because I don't know that website. The trust isn't built like it is with the Etsy name, like it is with an Amazon, like the Amazon name, something like that, right? So I do think you have to work harder to build trust. And of course, there's a lot of ways that you can do this, but you have to do it. You have to use some strategy to build that trust. Whereas Etsy, not so much. People are very comfortable buying on Etsy. I've never been hesitant about buying from an Etsy store.
Yeah, for sure. Man, I think that covers it. Some closing thoughts. To be pretty brief, we shattered our 45-minute.
One of these weeks, man. One of these weeks, we're gonna surprise ourselves. That was like 35 minutes.
That was almost an hour and 15 minutes ago when I said that. It's about value. It's about delivering value.
Exactly. We're just so passionate about this. Like, you think this is a lot? We could talk about this for 6 hours. Yeah. Like, we can do a marathon. I could keep going, man. I could go double this. You could too. But we won't. We're going to spare you guys that.
All right. So our recommended strategy, as Adrian mentioned, is you should be on both. Okay. You should be on both. But number one, I would start with Shopify, build your own brand, start making some sales on Shopify. Once you're comfortable and you feel like you can add an additional thing, you can create an Etsy shop as a complementary sales channel and start listing your products there. So I want to specifically talk about print on demand because I think this is the best example. With print on demand, it is so easy to send your products to your Shopify store, but then also just send those products to Etsy. For instance, if you're using a company we talk about a lot called Gelato, Gelato has a direct integration with Etsy. What that means is you set up your Gelato account, you can integrate with your Shopify store, you can connect Gelato to your Shopify store, but then you can also connect Gelato to your Etsy store, which means if you create a t-shirt, you can just list it both places, like in a matter of minutes.
Why not?
Super easy, right?
Good for SEO too. More searchability. You're on two platforms. That's amazing.
And you can do that with many print-on-demand providers. Just make sure they have an Etsy integration. Most are integrated with Shopify, if not all. So that's what makes more sense, is not to 100% rely on Etsy. 100% you need to rely on Shopify as that home base,
owned platform,
and then
it will not get terminated.
Use Etsy as additional revenue.
Yep. You could do it, technically you could do it the other way around. Like if you just wanted to, a lot of people, they have Etsy stores and they do not have Shopify stores, that's totally fine. No problem. But what we would recommend as a next step is to get over to Shopify. Then what you can do is you can take all that Etsy stuff over to Shopify. You can build a brand around it. You can build that tangible asset. You can sell it, or you can grow it, you can scale it. There's so much more you can do with it, and you never have to worry about, in the snap of a finger, having your account terminated. And if it does get terminated on Etsy, which would be very unfortunate, if you have a Shopify store in place and you're driving traffic and you've got, your marketing to your brand, a lot of times it's not going to be that big of a deal, and you're going to be very glad that you have that Shopify store. So definitely have both. I wanted to kind of give a shameless plug for Six Figure Founder, because I know that there's a lot of frustrated Etsy sellers out there that are saying, like this one that emailed me or that messaged me over, I think, Facebook DM, and they said that it's just too competitive and everyone just steals their designs. As soon as they get a design, everyone just steals them. If you're one of those sellers, build a Shopify store and let us help you. Like, if you're an Etsy seller, if you are making sales and you want to diversify, your business, lower your risk by creating a Shopify store, you are probably a very good candidate for our Six Figure Founder program, because we will give you everything you need to get set up on Shopify and to create an actual brand. So I recommend joining the waitlist, and we'll notify you when the program reopens. That's sixfigurefounder, the number sixfigurefounder.com/join. I believe that's it. Kerry, is that right?
Yeah. You can either go the number sixfigurefounder.com/join. You can also do in the show notes, there's sixfigurefounder.com/coaching. Either one of those will work. Just go down to the show notes on YouTube or on Apple or Spotify, click the link or type it in.
Yeah. In a lot of cases, it'll be a very good fit, especially if you're using print on demand. It'll be super simple. We'll show you everything you need. So
for sure. All
cool.
right, I think that does it.
All right, let's end it off there. Thank you so much, everyone, for sticking with us here. We hope you enjoyed this episode. And if you have any questions, hit us up, DM us on Instagram, TikTok, YouTube. You guys are awesome. Thank you so much for listening, and we'll talk to you guys very soon.
See ya. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of the Print on Demand Playbook podcast. If you enjoyed it, please leave us an honest review on whichever platform you're listening on. Thanks again and have a great day.